The sun was dipping over the top of the statue of the panther. The explorer looked up and saw Fred watching. He sprang to his feet as if embarrassed to be caught in kindness, his bad leg catching on his good one and suddenly brisk again. Right, are you ready to go? You each need to take some fire with you. The fish eyes shine red in the light. Find some slow burning wood, something dense or it'll burn down too quickly. They set off in single file through the dark trees, each carrying a burning branch. Back a road, still slightly damp, inside Lila's shirt. The explorer moved without a single rustle. The rest stumbled behind him, stubbing their toes on unseen roots. A branch whipped in Fred's face, and the leaves blackened in the flame of his torch, but the wood was too green to catch fire. Don't burn down the jungle, please, said the explorer, without even turning around. Fred found, to his surprise, that the dark no longer seemed threatening. It still made his skin tingle, but the pitch-black shadows under the trees no longer bit at his stomach in the same way. The change had been so slow, he hadn't felt it come. There are ant mounds everywhere here, said the explorer. Nothing too bad. The only dangerous ants are the bullet ants, but you don't want to disturb them if you can help it. I was attacked by a colony once when I was asleep. It looked like my whole body was covered in warts. Oh, said Lila. Wow. Quite. Not very good for the morale. They went in a new direction, northwest, down a steep incline. Every time their branches burned down to their hands, they pulled a new one from the trees and lit them. Twice Fred lost his footing and slid until he came up against a tree. Max tripped, ate a mouthful of mud, and they had to pause until his screaming died down enough for him to walk on. Lila tried to comfort him. The explorer turned away and studied the dung beetle with angry intensity. The lake, when they came upon it, was larger than Fred had expected. The trees that grew all around it had spread their roots under the water. The explorer took off his shoes and waded in, knee deep. Come on, quickly, he said. What are you waiting for? Fred followed him into the water, feeling it soak his shorts and praying there was nothing in there with teeth. The lake was pure black, except where his burning torch cast a yellow light down through the water to the mud and stones on the lake bed. In the glow of the flames, pairs of red lights flitted and flashed under the surface of the water. Max laughed, delighted. The bigger the eyes, said the explorer, the bigger the fish. Move slowly towards them. Hold your torch close to the surface. Lower your spear as slowly as you can into the water, and then, at the last minute, you jab. Jab fast, but don't jab your own feet. Now split up. Lila and Con exchanged sceptical glances. They moved off across the lake, but they didn't split up. Their breath was audible, and it was hard to tell in the dark, but Fred thought they might have been holding hands. Max reached out and took Fred's hand. His palm was warm and sticky. Let's fish, Max said. Fred fumbled, trying to arrange his spear properly while keeping the flame away from his face. If I give you this torch to hold, he said to Max, will you try not to burn my hair off with it? Max took the burning branch. Maybe, he said. The spearing was harder than Fred had expected. The spear was thin and supple in his hand, but every time he brought it down over a fish, the fish had already gone. A swarm of mosquitoes passed over them. Max sneezed and waved the burning branch over emphatically. Max! I think I'd better take the branch. No, cried Max. No, it's mine. I'll be careful. A spear suddenly flew past them, inches from Fred's chest, and landed in the mud of the lake, its tip vibrating out of the water. Fred jumped, Max gave a yell, rocked backwards, grabbed at Fred's knees, and the two of them toppled backwards into the water. The branch extinguished. Fred sat up, spitting water, and looked around for Max. The explorer strode past, picked Max up with one hand, flipped him upright, and set him back on his feet. Are you all right? Fred asked Max. I'm wet, he wailed. I don't want to be wet. Otherwise? Max's face rippled. He debated whether or not to cry. He hesitated, then, well, my underpants are soggy, but I'm all right. The explorer picked the spear out of the mud from where he'd thrown it. Good boy, he said to Max. On the end of the spear was a fish as big as a man's thigh. Breakfast, said the explorer. Come here, Fred, and see how it works. Max, stay on the shore, guard the fish. Here, I'll give you a torch. The explorer strode through the water to the nearest tree, pulled down a branch, lit it with his own and handed it to Max. Beautiful, no? Should Max be left on his own with fire? Asked Fred. He tends to eat things. The explorer turned to Max. Boy, don't eat the fire or anything else in the world surrounding you. Do you understand? Yes, said Max, sniffing the fish. You see, he understands, said the explorer. Come on. Fred wrung the water out of his shirt and waded into the lake, standing near the explorer. The man seemed to be in a good mood, so Fred risked a question. When you go out into the trees... Yes, the explorer waded further in, the water up to his thighs now. Fred followed. The black water closed over his waist. What are you doing there? You're gone all day, but you don't come back with food. Are you hunting? For a long time the explorer didn't answer, and instead just stared into the lake. He was so still that Fred wasn't sure if he was still breathing. There, you see? And he pointed at the murky water and the submerged roots. Fred couldn't see anything, just floating leaves and the reflection of the moon. The explorer's arm moved so fast Fred didn't even see it start or stop. But suddenly, there was a long fish on the end of the spear. A Ceteranchus, he said, needle jaw. Tastes like pike, lots of bones, but delicious. He took a length of twine from his pocket. It had a thin flint as sharp as a needle tied to the end. He threaded the fish onto the twine. You asked what I do during the days, he said. I'm fixing the thing I broke. Then he pivoted on his heel and swept the subject away with a gesture. Look, see how I grip it? Get the spear less than a thumb's height above the fish before you stab. Fred stood hunched over the water. Red eyes glinted in the dark. He stabbed many rocks, some leaves, even his own ankle, but then, astonishingly, he felt the tip hit a fish. The first stab hit only the tail fin, but the fish was slowed and Fred stabbed again until he felt flint meat flesh. I think I caught something. He held his spear up to the light. On the end something wriggled. It wasn't large, but it was definitely a fish. Wolffish. They call it a triera in these parts. Put it in your pocket, said the explorer. Fred checked to see if he was serious, but he didn't seem to be in a particularly jokey mood, so Fred put the fish in the pocket of his shorts, its eyes staring up at him like a gym mistress. He waited for a moment, rinsing the fish blood off his hands before he dared ask again. So, what are you fixing? And I'll continue reading the chapter in the next recording. Thank you, I hope you're enjoying listening.